Hello and welcome back to the Sports Host Podcast. We are going to be talking about our divisional games this weekend. I hope you guys had a very good weekend last weekend watching some of those upsets and some of those games that kind of went in a different direction than we all thought, especially here. So we are going to jump into the games. Joining me today is Sienna and Annabelle, and we have a special guest on our show today going by Derek. He is a podcaster from Hats, Tats, and Stats, which is a Buffalo-centric sports podcast, which is hosted by longtime friends and teammates, and also sports junkies who we love and like having onto the show. So welcome, Derek, to the Sports Host Podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here.
Welcome, Derek.
We are going to go into the first game of the weekend. We are going to have the Los Angeles Rams, who are 11-6, at the Green Bay Packers, who are 13-3. What do you guys think this game is going to – how do you think it's going to pan out?
I think that the Rams' strength right now is definitely their defense. However, they may be missing Aaron Donald, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Jared Goff's thumb is obviously a problem, and I think they definitely looked sloppy last week. On the other hand, the Packers have had a week to rest and practice and fine-tune and, get anything out of the way that they need to do. Aaron Rodgers finished the regular season with 48 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions. So if the Rams want any shot at winning this game, they're definitely going to have to try and maybe get an interception and, beef up their defense. So, yeah, I think they're also playing in Wisconsin where it's freezing. The Rams are from LA, so it might have a little adjustment trouble there. But I think that, I think the Packers, they've got an average of 31.6 points per game. The Rams have an average of 24.8 points per game this season on the road. So I can't really see the Rams making the upset here. I think that they're too discombobulated. So I'm going to go with the Packers for sure.
Hey, it gets cold in LA. What is this? LA is good. It's 75 degrees. It's relatively cold here.
Oh my God.
Don't be dissing LA like that. What do you think about this game, Sienna?
Honestly, one of the things I'm most excited for this game is seeing the matchup between Devontae Adams and Ramsey over here. We got one of the best wide receivers, one of the best corners in the league. I think that'll be really fun to watch and see who outplays who in that sense. Last week, the Rams defense won it for them. They had an outstanding game, and like Annabelle said, if Aaron Donald is out, that's a huge loss and a huge factor that really plays in the Packers' favor. But again, they pulled off the upset against the Seattle team that isn't as good as this Packers team. There's so much depth, and it's just a different beast. You got Aaron Rodgers, you got so many other players that could keep up. The Seahawks could keep up with, but Packers are a lot better in that sense. Also, like Annabelle said, you Western people don't know how to play in the cold, and it's supposed to be like 20 degrees on Saturday. So that's going to be hard for the Rams to adjust to. The Packers had a week off. They're rested. They've been practicing. There's a ton of film to watch from last week as well. I think the Packers offense will just be too strong for LA's defense this time. And I don't know, it's just a test that the defense won't pass.
Interesting take. Another person who doesn't think LA can thrive in a very cold environment. Derek, do you feel the same exact way?
Listen, man, it's funny you say it's 75 there. It's 35 where I'm at. So listen, this is where I live. So, playing in cold weather definitely impacts the game. It impacts just the feel of the football, if nothing else. You start adding the elements in, and that's a big deal. And being used to that, nobody's ever used to it. Even here in Buffalo, we could get snow in October, 9 feet like we did 5 years ago, or it could be 60 in January like it was a week ago. So, you never get used to it because it's never something you do constantly, but it definitely impacts the game. And if you do it once every 7 years, maybe, it's definitely an X factor. This game to me comes down to one thing only: defense. It's been mentioned, even if Donald plays, he's going to be hurt. Yeah, he's dealing with a rib injury. As a lineman, as a guy who played the position, I don't want to be hitting the ribs when my ribs are hurt. I can play with a broken hand. I can play with a bum elbow. My shoulder, like from your shoulders to your knees, is what matters. And when that's banged up, you're not 100%. And the only way the Rams win this game, in my opinion, is getting Rodgers off his game the way they got Wilson off his game last week. And I don't see it. If he's not healthy enough, it's not going to happen. And that to me is what it's going to boil down to. The Rams have been inconsistent. The Packers have been playing good defense, and that's a bad matchup in my opinion too. Especially when you talk about the shortcomings of Goff's game being, he struggles when he doesn't have McVay in his headset, and then you added maybe I don't know if there's going to be fans of this game, but if there is, I think that's going to make it worse. Then you add in the weather and then the elements, and it's just I think there's just too much stacked against the Rams here. Oh, and your quarterback who needs a coach in his headset has a bum thumb. So there's too much going against the Rams this week. I think the Packers take it, and I don't think it's that close.
Yeah, I definitely see the Packers taking this. However, I am gonna play the opposite side of you three, and I'm gonna fend off LA for you. I think the Rams, their defense is pretty good. If Ramsey can lock up Devontae Adams like he locked up DK, I think Aaron Rodgers doesn't have too many other studs he can throw to. Obviously, he can hand off the ball to Aaron Jones, but you got Aaron Donald stacked in the box. So, it'll be a good matchup. Aaron Donald, this morning or a couple of days ago said that he felt totally fine. It was just the wind that got knocked out of him, and he feels healthy and as strong as ever. So if we want to talk about different beast, Aaron Donald is a different beast. And being a 49ers fan, I know exactly how it feels to have a strong and healthy Aaron Donald. Now, yes, LA is not the snowiest place in the United States. Who knows? Maybe there's another deflate gate. Jared Goff can just deflate the ball a little bit. And I throw that out there because Annabelle is a Patriots fan. But
we try not to hold those things against people around here.
Very, very true. But I don't know. You could argue that Jared Goff could have a good game. He just needs to get Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods into the game and into a rhythm, and I think they'll be fine. You have Cam Akers in the backfield who can tear up the Packers' run defense. I think they'll have a good shot. I think, like you said, Derek, and as it's mentioned, I think they need to get Aaron Rodgers off of his game. We saw that against the Bucs when the Bucs defense got after the quarterback. Aaron Rodgers got flustered and he couldn't throw the ball very well. Obviously, since then, he's been playing MVP caliber football, but I think it will come down to the defense. With that being said, though, I do think the Packers have a really good shot here. But as always, I do want to hear y'all's picks and the prediction of your score. So I'm going to start off with you, Derek. What do you think it's going to be?
45-17.
Right.
I think A-Rod goes off because he's started to talk. I think he's started hearing people like me talk about Josh Allen in the MVP race.
All right, Sienna?
I got Packers 28-17.
Annabelle?
I have the Packers. Can you hear me?
Okay, we're having a little bit of connectivity issues with Annabelle, but I'm pretty sure she said Packers 34-17. Yes?
You confirm or deny?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So Annabelle's pick is the Packers 34-17. And for myself, I think it will be a closer game. I don't think it'll be as explosive. So I do see the score being Packers 24-21. So going on the whole explosivity of an offense, we have two offenses in this next game that are off the charts in terms of records and stats. And I know, Derek, you're very excited to talk about this next game. So we have the Baltimore Ravens, who are 12-5, coming into Buffalo and playing the Bills, who are 14-3. I'm going to start with the representative of the Bills Mafia. Derek, go for it.
who's the quarterback in Baltimore? Like, who throws the football?
That is a very valid question.
'Cause-
Lamar Jackson has been doing pretty well throwing the football lately, though.
Lamar Jackson's been doing what Tyrod Taylor did for years. Like we talked about it actually this past on the episode we just posted this morning. Lamar put up like 17 for 34 for like 179 and a pick, which was almost the exact stat line that Tyrod Taylor put up in our loss against the Jaguars in 17 when we broke the drought. Lamar Jackson as a quarterback does not impress me. Lamar Jackson is the best athlete on any field he steps on, but that does not mean he's a good quarterback. And what I want, and looking at my weather report here, it's supposed to be cold. They're calling for some snow, and they're calling for maybe 1 to 3 inches. In Buffalo, that could mean 1.5 feet at game time. So I want 6 inches of snow on the ground, and I want it to be clear and windy at game time, because I want Lamar Jackson to play quarterback and beat me. Because if that's what happens, we run away with this game. If it's a clear, sunny day, our run defense has been susceptible this year, and that is going to be what keeps them in this game or what keeps them out of this game. Other than that, it's going to be the Bills are going to have to beat themselves. It's going to be Josh turn the ball over, which he, knock on wood, hasn't done a ton this year. It's going to be really that's what it's going to boil down to is can the defense that the Ravens – I mean, the Ravens at the trade deadline, the Ravens went and said, okay, we could probably try to get there's some receivers out there. We can try to bolster our passing attack a little bit, give some guys that are a little bit more consistent catching the ball for Lamar. And what did they do? They bolstered their defense because what is the truest fact about the Ravens? They don't play well from behind. So we don't want to let other teams score. Well, guess what? My Bills, that's all we're doing this year is scoring points. So I want the ball first. I want to put 7 on the board in like 2 plays and say, you better figure out how to score points against me because we're going to put points up. And I want the weather to help me with that because I don't want Lamar and those 6-headed rushing attack that they have to go for 300 yards on the ground on me because, again, that's where I get in trouble. As a Bills fan, that's where I'm going, darn it. To channel my inner Phillip Rivers, dadgummit, they're running the ball again. But I think the Bills match up well against the Ravens, having a defensively minded head coach who has found a way to see our porous run defense get 10 times better as the year went on. Guys like A.J. Klein, who for 2 weeks when he took over from Matt Milano, people were calling for his head in Buffalo. I mean, this guy was he was going to be drawn and quartered in the square, and they found a way to make him a week's leading tackler in a week and just a run-stuffing, hard-nosed player because McDermott makes great adjustments. He makes great adjustments to put the right people in the right place. We've got our defensive line is finally healthy. We got a lot of young guys up there that are playing well. Dirty Harry's leg finally looks good. He finally looks like he's playing with some purpose. Justin Zimmer's been playing tight up front. Those guys playing better along with Ed Oliver have made Edmonds' job a lot easier. And, I think you lock up Trey White on Hollywood Brown, let one of our heavy-hitting safeties take Mark Andrews and say, we're going to score points, and if all you can do is run the ball, it's going to be a long day.
That's very, very valid. So I have a question for you now. So should you not get the weather – and we lost Annabelle. Hopefully she can reconnect soon. If you do not get the weather that you want or get all of those variables that you're looking for, if the Ravens have the opportunity to run the ball and use Lamar at his full strength, do you think the Bills defense can stop them?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at our team, the 2 teams that we played last year, and one blown coverage play got them a touchdown, and we still had – and if we played a bad game that day. Don't get it twisted. We played good defensively. Offensively, we did not play well. And we had a shot on the last play of the game to tie it and go to overtime. Our offense this year is 7 times that is what it was last year. So I think it's far more even if the weather conditions play nice, I guess we'll say. it's still going to be cold. It's going to be 30 degrees at game time. And like I said, that affects the ball, makes it hard, makes it slick, regardless of whether it's dry or not. And, Lamar's throwing action, if you watch him throw the football, it's ugly. It's never the same. It's not, he can throw from different arm angles, like you hear guys talk about Mahomes, Rodgers, and these guys. It's his arm slot's inconsistent because he doesn't know how to throw a football. And I'm not trying to be a jerk about that. That's just, I've been playing sports where you throw my whole life, and consistency is key. He could throw the same route to the same guy 6 times and it never looks the same. And that's an issue. So with the cold, I think we're already a step in the right direction. If it's dry, if it's not windy, it definitely levels the playing field a little bit more, but I still think the Bills match up well here.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to see a divisional playoff game in like 6 inches of snow. Who wouldn't love to see that kind of action? But let's hear what the girls had to say about this. Sienna, what is your take on this game?
I think the key to this game is Bills defense. Derek was saying, if the Bills defense, the offense, nothing to worry about. That offense is booming. It's great. It's going to do great. No worries there. I have no concerns on that end. I just think if the Bills defense just lock down that run game and the throwing game isn't that great. So as long as they can do that, it's close as clear. Bills charging in, running, whatever. It's a solid win for them. Another thing that that could go either way, or not either way, but is an important factor between these two teams is the third down conversion. Statistically, the Ravens convert on third downs a lot better than the Bills, but like I said, that still goes down to a Bills defense. If the Bills defense can stop that from converting on that third down, then there's no problems. And the Bills offense, it's like if it keeps rolling with Josh Allen and Diggs and all of them, that explosiveness is really hard to stop. So I'm leaning in the Bills direction as well, for sure.
All right, Annabelle, what is your take on this game?
Yeah, I agree with everything that has. I read this somewhere, and I think it's really important.
All right, the Virginia Woods or the Vermont Woods are definitely not doing well to Annabelle's Wi-Fi. So hopefully we can get her connected here, and we lost her. But hopefully she can come back. But to that, I will just jump into it. Honestly, this is going to be a very good game. I think it boils down to the defense, the Bill, like everyone's mentioned, the Bills' defense. But not only that, the offense. I don't think this is going to be a defensive game. I think the barn doors are just going to be blasted wide open, and it's going to be a shootout. In an arm-to-arm battle, Josh Allen will definitely beat Lamar. Josh Allen's running obviously is not as strong as Lamar's is, but I think his arm compensates for the speed and the agility that Lamar brings. I think the Bills' offense also has a lot more X factors that Josh Allen has at his disposal. Stephon Diggs is going to be huge. They have been playing very well within the last couple games. And honestly, you can tell they're best friends. They play video games every night, and they have that connection that they need in order to sling the ball and break Buffalo records. I've enjoyed watching them. And Marcus Peters is going to be on the opposite side of that ball. However, I don't entirely see Marcus Peters being able to bottle Stephon Diggs. I think Marcus Peters is one of the best cornerbacks in our league right now, but I don't see him bottling up Stephon Diggs like Trey White will on Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown has been playing pretty decent football. However, we haven't seen that, oh my God, from last season, the first 2 weeks when he went for like 100 yards and a couple touchdowns. Since then, he has not been the same productive wide receiver. And I think if the Bills get to Lamar and frustrate Lamar, he will not have a good game. Once Lamar gets frustrated, he tends to throw kind of questionable passes, tends to run a lot more and kind of doesn't keep his options open. I think his best bet is going to be Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews has been a reliable target for Lamar, but if like Derek mentioned, if they put a hard hitting safety on him, that's not going to be a problem for the Bills. So I'm excited to see how many yards and how many touchdowns Josh Allen throws, because I saw a stat on the game last weekend that he has not thrown a single pick in the red zone. He has not thrown a single interception. And in my book, that not only speaks to consistency, but effectiveness and efficiency. If you can get into the end zone, you can score, you can put up points, and you don't have any turnovers in the red zone, I would bet on the Bills all day, every day, when it comes down to scoring points. So that is kind of more so where I'm going. Annabelle, hopefully your internet's working a little bit more. Can you just give us some of what you were saying prior?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I think everything that has been mentioned so far is totally accurate. I'm definitely leaning with the Bills in this one for sure. I think that, I read this somewhere and I think it's important to reiterate. This game comes down to whether you believe in Josh Allen's arm or Lamar Jackson's legs, which I think is kind of hilarious because Lamar Jackson is a quarterback and yet he runs, like Derek said. We don't see him.
Quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm just more inclined to go with Josh Allen here because I know he can throw. And I also, you can't sleep on Josh Allen's run game either. He put up 428 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground during the regular season. So I think he's very well-rounded. He can easily hurl it downfield to Diggs to break up any potential lead. I don't know if you can still hear me, but I'm going to keep going. So I definitely it's going to be an interesting matchup. It'll be interesting to see how such different quarterbacks go head to head. But ultimately, I got to go with the Bills on this one for sure.
So it sounds like we all trust in Josh Allen's arm over Lamar's legs, and it's very true. I understand now why Josh Allen has a 99 throw power in Madden. It is ridiculous how he can just run and just flick of the wrist and it's down the field 50 yards. But I do want to hear, obviously we all are going with the Bills, but I do want to hear your score predictions. So starting off with Derek, what you got in this game?
This one to me is going to be a tighter game on the scoreboard than I think the game is actually going to be. It's going to be one of those deceiving scores when you look at it. I think you're going to see like a 34-24 or 35-24, somewhere in there. A little interesting fun fact. I make these jokes about Lamar not being a throwing quarterback. Josh Allen has more rushing touchdowns in his career than Lamar does. So I make that joke, but fun fact. So, go Bills.
So shots have been fired. Clearly, he favors Josh Allen over Lamar. Going on to Sienna, what do you got?
I got Bills 30-21.
Annabelle?
Not the same.
Yeah, I have the Bills 31-27.
Cool. So it sounds like everyone kind of has it as a kind of relatively high-scoring game. I also have it as a shootout. I also think the Bills are going to take it 35-27. Hopefully this game comes to fruition and we get that weather that we also want to see and it becomes a close game. We're going to go into the next couple games. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, and we are back. We're going to discuss the last 2 games of our divisional round. This next game, I had trouble picking the game. Honestly, it was a toss-up. But this game that I'm referring to is going to be the Cleveland Browns, who are 12-5, at the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 14-2. I definitely struggled with this game. What do you guys think? How do you think this game's going to pan out?
I think that the Browns had a hell of a game in Pittsburgh, and that was incredible to see. However, I think the Chiefs are about 10 levels up from Pittsburgh, maybe even more. So I don't think you can rely on last week's game as an indicator of how the game is going to go scoring-wise. However, the Browns' momentum seems to just be improving each week steadily, which I think is definitely a hard feat, especially in the postseason. And they've got that underdog mentality. They've always had it, but Baker really seems to have that ingrained in his mind now. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the upset here. And I know that the Chiefs offense is a different animal. I know that they're strong in literally every single offensive weapon, every position. I think it's going to come down to whether the Browns are going to be able to stop the Chiefs offense, which again seems literally impossible. And Baker Mayfield's going to have a perfect game. And everything in my head and logically is telling me to pick the Chiefs. But my gut is screaming for an upset here, so I'm rolling with the Browns this week.
Well,
Interesting
if
take.
that's
Anna,
true.
How do you feel about her upset pick?
If that's true, you won't be seeing me for a couple weeks. But okay, so before we were talking about Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen, who's got the better arm, who's got the better legs. You know who's like doesn't have a concern whether whose rush game, whose leg, whatever is better. Oh, really? Did he play this season?
He played a couple games.
No, that is one Pat Mahomes. Okay, yes, the Browns came up big last week against Big Ben and the Steelers offense. I mean, they forced many turnovers. But again, this is Big Ben. We're not talking about Super Bowl MVP, superstar quarterback Patrick Mahomes here. You're not going to see many turnovers like that happen, many interceptions like that happen. The weak point of this matchup is definitely the Browns' defense, I think. I think that's the weakest offense. Out of both offenses and defenses, that is the weakest. And a weak Browns defense against the strongest offense, I'll say one of, just for Derek's sake, but it is the strongest offense.
I appreciate that.
It's just, I can't see it going any other way at all. I mean, Chiefs all the way. You got, on the other hand, on the offense, with Browns offense, okay, you got Baker Mayfield, you got Chubb, you got Hunt, you got all these people going in, but is that a match for Kelsey? Is that a match for Hill, Mahomes? I mean, Edwards-Helaire, if we're talking about rushing. Like, it's just, they're two good offenses, but I see the Chiefs coming up bigger here because the Browns defense just won't be a match. And plus the Chiefs have a week's rest. Just a similar case with the Packers. They have a week's rest. They've been practicing. That's all I gotta say.
Well, sounds like you're definitely leaning one way.
That's not a lean. She's laying. She's all the way over.
That is very true. So from one high-powered offense to another, Derek, how do you think the Chiefs are going to bode with the Browns?
So there's a couple things that aren't going to happen here. The Browns are not going to benefit from a first play snap over a quarterback's head for a touchdown from an all-pro center. They're not going to benefit from what's left of Big Ben's arm and just these lollipop throws. I'm pretty sure I can throw harder than Big Ben right now. And what is going to happen is the Browns secondary looks susceptible against Big Ben's powder puff arm. So big, my man Patty Mahomes there is going to just be a surgeon downfield and just dice that secondary. I don't need Helaire to touch the ball. I don't need Bell to touch the ball. You're just going to see surgical mastery from one of the best in the game. And the only shot that the Browns have is to hope that Chubb and Hunt run for 200 yards each and Mahomes touches the ball 3 times. And the Browns touch the ball 4, and they score on every time. That's it. That's the only shot because that Browns secondary can't keep up. They just can't. They showed it last week. You jump up to a 28-0 lead in the first quarter, and that becomes, like, at one point, a less than 2 touchdown game. So there's no shot that should happen. The Browns were upset last week that Juju said the Browns are still the Browns. After the game, Juju said the Browns are still the Browns. And you know what? We've said it on our show. Like we were saying, the Patriots are the Patriots, still they're not the Patriots anymore. The Browns are still the Browns, still they're not the Browns. And when the Browns stop blowing leads when they got their foot on someone's throat, I'll start talking about the Browns like they're a legit competitor. And now this is with me wanting the Browns to win. So the Bills host an AFC Championship game next week. Not putting the cart before the horse. The Chiefs are going to win this game. And I'm going to give you my 45-28 score right now.
Wow, that's a pretty
I'm
big
playing for this
jump.
AFC Championship though. That's the dream.
And I would actually be in line for tickets finally for an AFC Championship game in Buffalo. So I would actually be there because I haven't gotten to go to the last two, and it's not happy about it.
That would be amazing. I know that for Bills Mafia, that would be an amazing experience. I don't know. Like, my heart screams Browns just because they've gone through so much. Like, if a team were a year, they would be 2020. However, they are looking up.
Yeah.
Like, things are looking up for them as opposed to everything that's going on right now in 2021. However, I think that the big daunting nightmare behind the door is Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, I know what it feels like to play against Patrick Mahomes. Definitely a sore spot still. But I think that if the Browns were to win, like Derek said, they need to run the ball and control the time. It's going to rely on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt to try and do something against that Chiefs defense. I know their front line is pretty good. Their secondary is good, but I wouldn't say it's a top-tier secondary in our league. The Browns' secondary obviously is not top tier, and they have problems against Tyreek because they have realistically no one that can keep up. And then they have Travis Kelce, who is the second best tight end in the league, and I will give him that. I don't know about number one. With George Kittle healthy, I think George Kittle is the better tight end, and that's no biases whatsoever. But I do think that the Chiefs will end up taking this game. There's no doubt in my mind. Baker Mayfield, although yes, he's been playing very good football and he's been proving why he was picked in the first round, he has not been doing that for too long. Last season, we saw him play very poorly, and for the beginning of the season, he was playing decent but not good, and then he started getting really, really good. I think the Browns are still the Browns until, like Derek said, they become a contender and they stop losing leads like they did in Pittsburgh. I think the TikTokers were just way ahead of themselves, and it just got really bad really fast. If it was point per point, I think the TikTokers would have eventually taken that. However, Big Ben, I don't know what he was doing, but the Browns ended up taking that upset, and I was really excited for that. However, this next game against the Chiefs, everything's going to need to go the Browns' way in order to win, because this is the game that it's a Chief. Like, the Chiefs have to lose this game in order for them to lose, if that makes any sense. And I think Lady Chaos has been doing very well for me lately, and I'm going to use my Lady Chaos card here. I think if the Browns are going to win, there's going to be a lot more chaos that needs to happen on this field. I need Mahomes to flash back to Hard Rock Stadium and throw another 3 picks. I need Kelce to not touch the ball, and I need Hill to drop every ball that comes his way. Has that happened recently besides the 3 picks against the Dolphins? Not really. So I don't know. I see this game also being pretty big, as Derek mentioned. I also think it's going to be a 42-21 victory by the Chiefs. Annabelle, Sienna, how big of a victory do you think the Chiefs are? Or Annabelle didn't even take the Chiefs. So I'll go towards Sienna. Sienna, well, how big do you think the Chiefs' lead is going to be in this game?
I got 38-24 Chiefs, honestly.
That's very generous for the Browns offense. I like that. I see you being giving in the time of the holidays.
I'm going to be realistic. Like, obviously the Chiefs are going to win, but, Chubb and Hunt, one of them is bound to make it in the end zone. Like, it's going to happen. So I don't know.
All right, very
Maybe 20
generous.
points is a little too generous.
Very generous. Okay,
Whatever.
now on the opposite side of the spectrum. Annabelle, how close do you think the Browns will potentially win this game?
I think that if they win, I think that they are gonna win it by a touchdown. So I have them winning 35-28 against Chiefs. And this is all, again, I have zero stats to back me up on this. I have nothing to back me up except for
Your heart.
Lady
potential,
Chaos.
circumstantial, possible things that could happen. So, yeah, I'm going with it. I'm confident.
All right, so she has Baker going toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. I love it. I hope it happens. It would be an amazing podcast next week when Sienna comes into this podcast, and then we get to see her happy face. But for our last game, which actually could potentially be very good considering one of these teams got absolutely stomped on the last previous 2 times that they've met. This game is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are sitting at 12-5, at the New Orleans Saints, who are 13-4. Like, I mean, it's not on Nickelodeon this week. Unfortunately, I enjoyed seeing the slime and the introductory to football. I like seeing Sheldon tell me what the flags were, and seeing these broadcasters who were enjoying themselves, obviously. But starting off with Derek, how do you think this game is going to pan out, considering we have two of potentially the oldest quarterbacks in the league playing against each other?
Well, I think the interesting thing on this is I heard that Brady stole Brees' AARP card.
Oh.
So, like, they're going to meet up at the old folks' home after the game and duke it out in a game of Parcheesi. So, this, listen, if you told me that I got a Tom Brady, Drew Brees playoff matchup that wasn't a Super Bowl 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh my God, this game is going to be 54-50, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Brady is not doing great in Bruce Arians' downfield attack system. He's doing okay. He also has more weapons this year than he's ever had. If they ran more of a system that was to his strength, I think that team goes a lot better this year than they did. The Saints are doing the Saints things. 2 things I'm not confident on is Drew Brees is one sore bad I slept on my shoulder funny day from looking like Nate Peterman throwing the football and just chucking change-ups to everybody. And I'm one bad timing use of Taysom Hill in the red zone away from a big red zone turnover that swings the momentum the other way. This one to me comes down to the same way the Packers-Rams is going to. It's going to come down to defense. And the Saints defense is playing as good as anybody. If you told me, again, 10 years ago that I'd be talking about this quarterback matchup and saying a defense is going to win this game, I would have told you you're insane, because I don't think a defense stops either one of these quarterbacks 10 years ago. Thank God they've both been playing for 20. So I think you see the Saints defense step up, take away what Brady does well, and make him rely on what he doesn't do well, which I think they're good enough to make up for. I think it's close. I don't think it's overly high scoring. And I think you see a heavy dose of Alvin Kamara to keep Brady off the field. If we were talking about whether it'd be to keep him cold, those old bones get a little rickety. But, because we're in a dome, it doesn't matter. But I think you see the Saints turn this into a defensive showdown, and I don't think the Buccaneers can match up on that.
All right, so you have the Saints going a clean sweep this season against the Buccaneers. I like it.
And generally speaking, it's not easy for a team to beat the same team 3 times. We say that, but in the NFL, it's like 60-something% that it happens. So
very true. I know maybe it does happen. Maybe Tom Brady's just rickety and they leave the AC on a little too long and it gets cold and then he gets a little funky. But I know Annabelle definitely has that look in her eye about playoff Tommy. So Annabelle, I want to hear what you got.
Well, I am, yeah, I I don't think that the Saints can beat the Bucs 3 times in one season, purely because Tom Brady is at the heart of that team. Wait, let me try. Okay, hopefully you can hear me. I don't know if you can.
Yes, we can.
But there's a lethal combination between the revenge mentality and the playoff mentality of Tom Brady, and that is truly what makes him scary in the playoffs. And I saw it last week in him, even though the man, the myth, the legend, Taylor Heineke kept it close, which that was exciting for everyone to see, even though I was rooting for Brady. Heineke is, I love him now. But yeah, Godwin last week looked like he had some playoff nerves. He was dropping a lot of balls. That was pretty uncharacteristic. So I'm hoping that maybe see some improvement there this week as he feels more comfortable. Mike Evans, aka Captain America, stepped up big time in that regard. I mean, the thing about Brady is that his passing remains consistent pretty much at all times, and that just, I would say he's inconsistent. Whenever he's inconsistent in passing is actually during the regular season and not the postseason. In the postseason, it's almost like he flips a switch and he's just going for it. I think Tampa Bay is going to come out hot and firing on all cylinders, and even though Tom already has a bajillion and one rings, he wants one more, and he wants to prove that he can do it with another team. So I'm hoping he can instill his killer playoff mentality in the Bucs, which I think he can. They've been a lot more cohesive as the season has gone on. I mean, these QBs are often compared because of their age, but in my book, that's where the comparison stops. Drew Brees is not Tom Brady, and he never will be. And I can see the Saints crumbling this week for sure. So call me biased, but I'm going with the Bucs because I'll never bet against Brady, and I'll never bet against Belichick either. So that's
you're totally biased.
Coming from a Patriots fan, I definitely think that I hear some bias, and that's a very bold statement on Brees. Very, very bold. But I appreciate it. Sienna, do you have contradictory opinions about Drew Brees and the Saints?
Well, contradictory to Annabelle, yes. Battle of the Vets we got going. That's what I've called this game. Honestly, this was, out of all the picks, I think this one was the hardest for me to decide. It's definitely going to be a very close game. I think it's like Derek said, it's going to be low scoring and close, because here it's going to be more of a defensive game. I think mentally there's a lot of big factors here. Like Annabelle said with Tom Brady, like he wants to prove that he can win another Super Bowl with a different team. And then on the other hand, you have Brees, who this could be his last hurrah. This could be his last chance. And that's a lot of motivation there. And I think when you weigh them out, the two, like, okay, like, yes, Brady, we see you want to prove it, and we know that you can when it comes down to it. But come on, I'm rooting for Brees. I'm sorry. like, despite the Bucs, their offense is clicking. They got momentum. They got that going. They got obviously playoff Tommy. They got Antonio Brown. They got Gronk. They got Mike Evans, not Chris Evans. And I just think the Saints, while the Bucs have a great offense, I just see the Saints having more depth everywhere, like offensively and defensively. Also, another big factor is Michael Thomas is supposed to be returning, possibly. So, I'm rooting for the Saints here.
Interesting take. Talk about depth. However, the deepest any of the Saints wide receivers go is 2 yards and a slant. So, their offense is built around Alvin Kamara and short passes. I definitely see the Bucks being completely opposite and going vertical and trying to spread the offense with their abundance of weapons. I think this trilogy the end of this trilogy is going to be an action comedy. I think everyone is going to be high powered, and you're going to see huge explosive plays, and you're going to see Tom Brady and Drew Brees do very well with a hint of Taysom Hill and some Leonard Fournette and maybe a mistake or two, and it'll be funny. However, I do think it's going to come down to arm against arm. I think Tom Brady versus Brees is going to be the big X factor for me. Obviously, Tom Brady has crazy amount of weapons and has a lot of mouths to feed, more than he's ever had, even in New England. So I think Tom Brady, as long as he gets it to one of those guys, they'll do something. Antonio Brown, speedster, Mike Evans, tall and a deep threat, TD threat. He has Gronk, who hasn't really been doing much, but Gronk is Gronk. Hulk smash, if he throws him the ball, he'll definitely hit some people. I think the Saints defense is a top tier defense in the league, just as much as the Buccaneers defense. I think they both are well equipped to stop the run. So I don't think Leonard Fournette, Rojo, or Alvin Kamara will be too much of a factor. Obviously, Alvin Kamara is the premier running back within this matchup, and he'll do a little bit better. But I don't see the running backs being all that much of a problem. I think it's going to come down to a slugfest between Tom Brady and Drew Brees, and it would be interesting to have them just duke it out one last time. Potentially Drew Brees' last season. Tom Brady, I feel like he's going to go the Brett Favre route. He's going to say he wants to retire, not going to retire. He's going to retire and come back, and he's going to keep playing up into his 50s. And honestly, he's going to be playing for my entire lifespan at this point. So I do hope that he does very well. I do see Tampa being a little bit evenly matched and a deeper play into the Super Bowl contention. The Saints, I think one of the other reasons that I'm kind of hesitant to pick them is the playoffs and the Saints cannot match up. They do not have a good relationship. The referees, I don't know if they just don't like the Saints, but the Saints have obviously been getting bad calls and miracles at the end of games, and the Saints have been choking away playoffs that they should be winning. So I do see the Saints kind of just coming up short again this season, and I potentially see Brees coming back next season just because they did come up short. But I don't know. I do see this being a huge slugfest into the whole aspect of being toe-to-toe, mano-a-mano. Derek, what do you think the score is going to be on this game?
Well, I think this is going to be tight. I think I'm going like 24-21. And I'd also, real quick, like to address the idea here that Tom Brady and Drew Brees are on different planes, because they're 1 and 2 in both major passing categories. And I have a question. Who was Tom Brady's best receiver he ever played with? Randy Moss.
Oh,
It's easily Randy Moss.
Yeah, for sure.
Who's the best receiver that Brees has ever played with?
Marquise Colston.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Who? I'm sorry. Marquise Colston was nobody compared to the guys that Brady played with. Get out of here with that.
Very true.
By the way, Michael Thomas is 4th all time for the Saints. That shows you how much he spread the ball around to everybody. Like, I just happened to look it up while you guys were talking. Got names on this list: Marquise Colston, Joe Horn. Joe Horn's number 2. He played from 2000 to 2006.
Oh, nice.
Danny Ambrowitz, who's the guy from the 60s and 70s. Jimmy Graham is number 6, a tight end, 6th all time on the team. Lance Moore, Quinn Early are on this list. So a lot of top end talent around him. A lot of guys with names. So Drew Brees is better than Tom Brady. I don't care what Annabelle says.
Interesting take. Annabelle, what's your score on this game?
Yeah, my score is actually exactly the same as Derek's, except it's for the Bucks. So 24-21 Bucks. Bucks.
Oh, we were friends.
Sienna, are you persuaded by the abundance of weapons that the Buccaneers have?
I am not. I also have the same score, oddly enough, but for the Saints. I don't know. Edgar, to touch on your point about how, they might choke in the playoffs. I mean, the Bills over there have been choking, but look at them. They've defied it. Maybe this is the year for everyone to defy that. No, it's a compliment.
You guys have sucked forever. You're doing good this year.
No, I know. But I'm saying it's I didn't mean, yeah, that came off bad, but I didn't mean that.
You guys are lucky I'm a good sport.
Well, on that note, what is your pick and your score, Sienna?
24-21 Saints.
All right. I'm a full believer in playoff Tommy. I know some of us here are not. However, I do think it's going to be a slugfest, and I do think Brady takes it 34-31. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting matchup, and I hope all 4 of these games come out to be really good. I'm really excited to see America versus the Chiefs. It's going to be interesting to see how all these pan out, and they all have the potential of being sluggers, being really close games. But we really appreciate you coming and listening to our podcast and taking a dive into our analysis and our matchup predictions. Please definitely fill out your playoff brackets with the Sports Host Playoff Pick'em League. And definitely, I would like to thank Derek for joining us today. Everyone, please go check out Hats, Tats, and Stats and show him some love and go in and hear what him and his crew has to say.
Thanks, Derek.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I had a lot of fun.
With that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and definitely check us out next week for our picks and predictions. Catch y'all later.
Go Chiefs.
Oh, Bills.